All right. Welcome back for another deep dive
Yeah, always fun to,
into some data analysis goodness.
absolutely.
So you've been digging into DAX functions in Excel, some really powerful stuff. And today we're going to zero in on one that I think you said caught your eye right, the previous function.
Yeah, the previous one.
And I got to say the name.
It doesn't
Sound all that exciting, right?
No, not really. But
But don't let that fool you.
trust me, this one's got some hidden depths.
Absolutely. It's all about comparisons and making things dynamic. And
So, from what I've been able to gather, previous essentially lets you grab a value from the row before, like the one you're currently looking at.
right.
It's like a rewind button for your data.
Exactly.
But hold on, can't you just do that manually? I mean, what's the big advantage here?
So you're right. You could do it manually, but imagine you've got, hundreds, thousands of rows of data.
Yeah, that way.
So previous really automates that whole process.
Makes it a lot easier. It keeps things dynamic.
Okay.
As your data changes, everything updates.
So like if you were tracking, let's say, a stock price over time, previous would just automatically let you compare, say, today's value to what it was 5 days ago.
Yeah, without having to go back and change your formula.
Gotcha. So you don't have to scroll up and down all the time.
Exactly.
Now, you mentioned something about steps.
Right?
So I'm not just stuck with looking at like the row right before, right?
Oh, I know.
What can you tell me about that?
So steps is really cool. It's like a parameter.
Okay.
You can say, all right, I want to go back 1 row, which is the default, but you can change that.
Okay.
You can say, I want to go back 2 rows, 5 rows, 10 rows ago, whatever you need.
So in that stock example, you could use steps to compare today's price to, say, a week ago,
Yeah.
a month ago.
Exactly. As far back as you need.
Wow. So this is starting to sound pretty powerful.
It is.
Now, there's also this axis parameter.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, this one sounds kind of intimidating.
I get it. Some of this jargon can be a little much.
Yeah, a little bit.
But think of axes like how your data is laid out visually.
Okay.
You've got rows, columns, and sometimes you even have further dimensions in your data.
Okay.
Now, most of the time, you don't really need to mess with axis.
Okay.
But let's say you're working with, you've got sales figures, but it's broken down by region and also product category.
Okay. Yeah,
That's where axis comes in.
I see.
It lets you make comparisons along those different dimensions.
So it adds kind of another layer of depth to the analysis.
Exactly. Precisely.
Now, there's also the blanks parameter.
Right.
What's that all about?
So blanks is how the function handles empty cells
Gotcha.
when you're sorting data.
So if I have missing data, I can control how that's factored in.
Exactly. You have a few options there.
Okay.
There's default, first and last, and they kind of tell you how the blanks are treated during sorting.
Okay.
But most of the time, the default behavior is going to do what you need.
All right. That makes sense. Now, the reset parameter.
Right.
This one sounds a little bit tricky.
Yeah, this is where things can get a little more complex.
Okay.
So reset really becomes useful when you're dealing with data that has some kind of hierarchy to it.
Okay.
So let's go back to those sales figures.
Okay.
This time you're looking at them by region and by month.
Okay.
The reset parameter lets you compare this month's sales to last month's sales, but within each specific region,
Okay.
not just like an overall comparison.
Gotcha. So you can really
You're creating these mini analyses within your larger data set.
get granular with it.
Exactly.
If I'm understanding all this right,
Yeah.
previous isn't just about like looking back in time.
Right.
It's about making these really targeted comparisons to see trends, to see patterns.
You got it. And the real power of previous comes when you combine it with other DAX functions.
Okay.
You mentioned you've been doing some research on financial modeling.
Yeah.
You combine previous with something like calculate. That's where you can really get into some really sophisticated analysis.
Wow. It sounds like there's a whole other level there to unlock.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been really eye-opening.
Yeah.
Thanks for breaking this down for me and for everybody listening, of course.
Of course.
We'll keep diving into all this fun stuff. Until next time.
Sounds good.
See ya.
See ya.